Welcome back to WordWise. So in part one, we started building our listening comprehension toolkit,
Yeah.
exploring the why behind effective techniques and the importance of understanding how our brains process information.
Yeah, I feel like we really cracked the code on some of those classic study tips, like
Yes.
why outlines and columns actually work. It's not magic.
It's science.
Science.
But knowing the theory is only half the battle.
Right.
Now let's roll up our sleeves and get practical,
Okay.
applying those insights to real-life exam scenarios.
I'm game. Let's dive into some concrete examples and see how these techniques actually play out
Perfect.
in the trenches of the O-level listening comprehension exam.
Let's revisit section 1.
Okay.
Those multiple choice questions.
Okay.
Remember the idea of focusing on main ideas.
Yes.
Well, imagine you encounter a question about a speaker discussing the benefits of a new community garden initiative.
Okay. I can picture it, a speaker passionately describing the joys of fresh vegetables,
Yeah?
the sense of community, maybe even the environmental benefits.
Yeah.
But there are probably a lot of details woven into that speech.
Right. You might hear about the specific types of plants they're growing, the volunteer schedule,
Oh, yeah?
the fundraising efforts.
How many details?
Yeah, and that's where the outline method comes in.
Okay.
As you listen, you wouldn't try to capture every single detail.
Right.
Instead, you'd zoom out and ask yourself, what's the overall message here?
Right.
What is the main point the speaker is trying to get across?
So in this case, the main point might be something like, community gardens offer numerous social, environmental, and health benefits.
Exactly. And underneath that main point,
Yeah.
you could jot down a few supporting details like increased access to fresh food, stronger community bonds, and reduced carbon footprint.
I'm starting to see how this works.
Yeah.
By organizing my notes this way, I'm not just remembering like a jumble of facts.
Yeah.
I'm understanding the speaker's core message and the key points that support it.
Right. And when you encounter a multiple choice question that asks something like, what is the speaker's primary argument in favor of community gardens?
I can easily refer back to my outline
Yes.
and see that the main point revolves around the multiple benefits they offer.
Exactly. It's like having a roadmap to navigate those tricky questions.
Okay, that's section 1.
Okay.
But section 2, with its multiple speakers, feels like a whole different beast.
Yes, it does.
How do we keep track of all those voices and viewpoints without our brains short-circuiting?
This is where our understanding of working memory and cognitive load comes into play.
Right.
Remember, our brains can only handle so much information at once,
Right.
especially when it's coming from different sources.
Right. Too many balls in the air, and we're bound to drop a few.
Mm-hmm.
But how does the column method actually help us manage that cognitive juggling act?
Imagine you're listening to a discussion about the pros and cons of school uniforms.
Okay.
You've got a student who's passionate about expressing their individuality. You've got a parent who's concerned about the cost.
Yeah.
And then a teacher who emphasizes the importance of a level playing field.
Okay, lots of different perspectives coming at us from all sides.
Yeah.
Without a good system, it would be chaos.
Exactly. But with the column method, you create order out of that chaos.
Okay.
As each speaker chimes in,
Yeah.
you assign them a designated column on your paper.
Right.
At the top of each column, you might just jot down a keyword or a phrase that represents their main stance.
So maybe individuality for the student, cost for the parent,
Yeah.
and equality for the teacher.
Exactly. Then as each person speaks, you capture their key points in their respective columns.
Okay.
This visual separation allows your brain to process each perspective individually,
Gotcha.
preventing that sense of overwhelm.
I see. It's like giving each speaker their own lane on a highway,
Yeah.
allowing them to express their viewpoints without crashing into each other.
And when you get to those questions that ask things like, which speaker believes that school uniforms promote a sense of unity?
You can quickly scan your columns.
Yes.
Find the speaker whose main points revolve around equality and unity,
Mm-hmm.
and confidently answer the question.
Precisely. The column method acts as a mental filing system,
Okay.
organizing information in a way that's easily accessible and retrievable.
Okay. I'm starting to see the light here.
Good.
But sections 3 and 4 with those fill-in-the-blank challenges
Yes.
still feel a bit intimidating,
Yeah.
especially section 4 where you only get one listen. It's like a listening sprint.
It is a listening sprint, and that's where our personal shorthand comes in.
Right.
Remember those abbreviations and symbols we discussed?
Yeah.
They're not just time savers.
Ah,
They're mental energy savers.
right. The faster we can get that information down on paper,
Yes.
the more mental space we have to actually process what we're hearing.
Exactly. Imagine you're listening to a passage about the importance of recycling.
Okay.
Instead of writing out due to the fact that you could simply jot down BC.
Okay.
Instead of environment, maybe just NB.
Every second counts in those fill-in-the-blank sections.
It does.
And the less time I spend writing, the more I can focus on listening for those crucial words and phrases that are going to complete those blanks.
Exactly. And don't forget about symbols.
Right.
An up arrow for increase, a down arrow for decrease, maybe even a light bulb for ideas or a question mark for problems.
The more we personalize our shorthand, the faster and more efficiently we can capture that information.
Yes.
It's like we're creating our own secret language for listening success.
And the best part is,
Yeah.
this secret language is constantly evolving.
Oh, cool.
As you encounter new words and phrases, you can add them to your shorthand repertoire, making it even more powerful with each listening experience.
This is all starting to make so much sense.
Good.
Okay, so we've got all these note-taking tools, but let's talk about the exam itself. I know a lot of students freak out when they realize they can only listen to that audio clip once.
Yeah, it can be a bit nerve-wracking.
It's like, wait, I can't go back and check if I missed something.
Right, but there's a strategy that can help. It's called the DWA approach, before, while, and after listening.
Oh, that sounds kind of catchy.
It is, and it's really helpful. This YouTube video called What to Do If You Can Only Listen Once, they explain it really well.
DWA, tell me more.
So before you even hear a single word of the audio, you skim those exam questions, look for the keywords, and try to predict possible answers.
Oh, so it's like setting up those mental filters to catch the important stuff.
Exactly.
I can see how that would help with the anxiety.
And then, while you're listening, you stay focused on those keywords. And any signal phrases the speaker uses.
Right?
Jot down those main points, but don't try to write down every single word. You'll just get bogged down in the details.
It's about capturing the essence, not getting lost in the weeds.
And then after the audio is done, you quickly review your notes, fill in any gaps, make sure your answers make sense.
So it's like a 3-step plan of attack. I like it.
It can make a big difference.
But before we move on, I want to touch on something that I think trips a lot of students up.
Okay.
Pre-exam jitters.
Yes.
I mean, even with the best techniques in the world, those nerves can really throw you off your game.
You're absolutely right. The mental game is just as important as the technical skills.
Yeah. Staying calm during the exam, that's got to be the hardest part.
It definitely can be, but practice is key. The more familiar you are with the exam format, the types of questions, the pace of the audio, the more confident you'll feel.
It's like training for a marathon. The more you practice, the less intimidating the race feels.
Exactly.
Okay, so before we wrap up, let's do a quick recap.
Sounds good.
We've covered a lot of ground, but it's all about helping you feel confident. Walking into that exam hall,
For sure.
we started by talking about why note-taking matters.
Right.
It helps you focus, understand, remember, and fight off that feeling of information overload.
Which can definitely make you anxious.
Then we talked about pre-listening prep,
Getting organized.
reviewing those exam questions, warming up your brain.
Like an athlete stretching before a game.
Then we became detectives, learning how to decode the audio,
Finding those key points.
spotting those signal phrases.
Even noticing nonverbal cues.
The speaker is giving you clues. You just have to learn to see them.
Exactly. And of course, we talked about staying calm
Using your time wisely.
and practicing with past papers.
The more you practice, the easier it gets. And here's the thing. These note-taking skills, they're not just for exams.
Right.
They're life skills.
You'll use them in so many situations.
Classes, university meetings, presentations. Being a good note-taker is a superpower.
Couldn't agree more.
So to our amazing listener out there, we've given you tons of tools and strategies to help you ace that listening comprehension exam.
You've got this.
Practice, experiment, find what works for you, and most importantly, believe in yourself.
And as you continue on your O-level journey and beyond, here's something to think about. How can you use these note-taking skills, not just for exams, but to become a better learner in all parts of your life?
The power is in your hands. And your notes,
I was always inclined to make history, but I never really had the time. Spent my life living dangerously, never worried how I'm getting.